Good morning. Thanks, Senator. I guess I do have to show you these charts now. So we'll prepare for that momentarily. But first, let me thank David and Wendy and Megan for coordinating the event, and all of you for joining us today. This is a very proud tradition that we have in Washington, usually, as a delegation, going on 68 years now, where the entire delegation welcomes anybody visiting. And I think the idea was germinated a year or two back that it's pretty difficult for everyone to get there all at once. So for us to come here and meet with you is certainly a happy and welcome occasion for all of us. And thanks for what you do in terms of your leadership in business. We are very, very grateful. This is not just about public policy. It's about business leadership in order to ensure a strong economy and entrepreneurial vision that puts people to work and help families. So we're grateful to have the opportunity to be here a little bit and spend a little time with you. You know, I got called by a national radio program recently, and they had a pretty simple question for me. They said, what is Nebraska doing right versus the rest of the country? Now, I'm sitting next to guys in Congress, as are Congressman Terry and Smith, who are dealing with not only 10% unemployment, in some places 12, 15, 17%. And the duress that causes in terms of social outcomes is really, really severe. And so this particular program wanted to know, what is Nebraska doing right? What lessons can we offer the rest of the country? And for a moment, I thought about giving them a single-word answer. I was very, very tempted simply to say, detasseling. Now, bear with me for a moment. My oldest daughter is a young teenager, and she decided to detassel this year. And so many of you have had this experience as well, getting up at an inhumane hour for a teenager, getting into a field when it's cold and wet and working till it's blistering hot, fighting off insects and corn rash, is just a very, very difficult process. But at the earliest, youngest ages, it instills this ideal between effort and reward. And that is enculturated and institutionalized in Nebraska in so many ways. It also instills the idea that you need to study pretty hard so you never have to go back and do that again. So what great lessons. I didn't actually say that to the radio program because this was a New York program and I thought there'd be a lot of dead air time after I mentioned that. But nonetheless, I went on to tell him three things. I said it's a strong agriculture economy because of the good stewardship of our farmers and ranchers. It's our emphasis in Nebraska on small business entrepreneurs. And third is it's the character and ethic of who we are. A focus on personal responsibility, investment in community, neighbor helping neighbor. And we just had a statistic come out the other day that foreclosure rates, again, are among the lowest in the country because our citizens didn't go out and take advantage of liberalized credit. We just simply don't do that. Our financial institutions, for the most part, have not had the serious issues that other financial institutions have had because they never heard of certain exotic financial instruments that others invested in and now force the rest of us to pay for. These ideals also get reflected in the way in which we govern. As Congressman Terry was mentioning, both Senator Nelson and Johans were governors. Congressman Terry and Smith and I were both on city councils. Guess what? We had to balance the budget. It's a horribly difficult process. We go through it every year. And there's never enough money for the number of police officers that you'd ideally want, the number of firefighting apparatuses, the amount of parkland that you'd ideally like to have, how much are you going to mow it, to what height, the number of streets you'd like to repave. It's never enough. But you have to make a hard decision about what is reasonable fees and taxation and a reasonable delivery of services and live with it, live with the consequences of it, and take hard votes. But again, in Washington, where you have borrowing going on at an unprecedented rate, where 40 cents on every dollar that's spent is now borrowed, you're piling up debt and you're leaving the economy potentially in a worrisome position, as Congressman Terry explained. What I'd like to do briefly is to go through, since you've all gotten this extraordinary build-up, and we're going to use some technology today to try to work through this, and I hope my staff is on standby here in case there's an operator